Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to Open Mic, this special Sunday edition right here on my YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea. It's an honor and a privilege to have you guys joining me here, as it is every day, as we talk about movies and TV and all of our favorite stuff. This, of course, is Open Mic. Now, I used to do the John Campea show on the weekends, but I had, changed it so much on the weekends to make it much more casual that a bunch of you guys suggested to me, hey, John, why don't you just make the weekend shows open mics? And I'm like, you know what? That's a great idea. So that's what we did. We're doing open mic here on the weekends. Hey, listen, guys, before we get into it, and all we're going to do today is take your live topics and conversation. That's why it's open mic. I'm going to make you make a little bit of announcement. I've been announcing this the last couple of days. Starting tomorrow, that is Monday, we're going to have a little bit of a scheduling change switcheroo going on here on the John Campea YouTube channel. And what's going to be happening is, what it has been doing is the John Campea show at 8:30 in the morning Pacific Standard Time, and then open mic later in the afternoon. What we're going to do starting tomorrow is swapping those. And here's why. As long as I've been doing movie news shows, they've usually been in the morning. And the thing I've always been frustrated about doing movie news shows in the morning is that we're always talking about yesterday's news. News that came out 23, 20, 18 hours ago. And that's when we're talking about is the next day. I wanted to try doing a show in the afternoon so that when we do the John Campea show and we're covering the movie news, we're actually talking about the movie news from that same day. Like movie news that's like 4 hours old instead of 24 hours old. You know what I'm saying? So here's what we're going to be doing starting tomorrow. 8:30 in the morning Pacific Standard Time. That's 9, 10, 11:30 on the East Coast time. We're going to do open mic. So we're going to kick the day off with open mic talking about everything that happened the day before. And then at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that'll be 6 p.m. East Coast time. At 3 p.m. will be the John Campea show. And that's what we're going to try. We'll talk about movie news and all that kind of stuff. That's what we're going to try. We're going to try for about a week or two, see how it goes. I asked you guys, a bunch of you guys on my social media and on YouTube, I said, what would you think about this? And overwhelmingly, the feedback was really positive. So we're going to do it. We're going to give it a shot. If it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And we'll just switch it back to the way it is now. Still 2 live shows a day. We're just swapping which order they come in so we can talk about the fresh movie news instead of the stale day-old movie news as I've usually done. So we're going to give that a shot and see if it works. Okay, with all that out of the way, let's dive into the live stuff today. And the first live question today comes to us from Manuel Fernandez, who writes, thoughts on V for Vendetta? I thought it's criminally underrated. I don't know that it's underrated because most people that I talk to seem to have a really good appreciation for V for Vendetta. So I don't know that it's all that underrated. Natalie Portman was great. I remember it was the big buzz. Natalie Portman shaved her head. Oh my God. And it was a big deal because she's like one of the most beautiful women on the planet. And she shaved her head for that. And it was perfect getting Hugo Weaving to do the voice of V. I mean, that was absolutely a great... I just got a notification from Disney, by the way, just popped up, says, a new look at Solo, a Star Wars story is now available. Brand new look at Solo, Star Wars story is now available to share with your readers. I'll have to take a look at that when the show is over. But just giving you guys a head up, I just got a notification from Disney. Maybe you want to check that out. So yeah, I wouldn't say that it's underrated because most people seem to have a very firm appreciation for it. Maybe it is a little underrated in the sense that maybe it deserves to be appreciated and recognized a little bit more. But generally speaking, people seem to have a high opinion of V for Vendetta, for good reason. Ben Rayner writes, over under 35%, we see Captain America die in Infinity War, but it's not really Cap, it's a Skull. I think you probably meant Skrull. And the real Cap will show up in Avengers 4. I don't think so. I don't think that's the case. I don't think they'll go that way, to be honest with you. And look, here's the thing. I think that's a little bit too inside baseball at this point. Skrulls are really more predominantly going to get introduced I believe, in Captain Marvel. I don't think in a film as important as Infinity War, they're going to throw like a big out of nowhere curveball like that. I think that would just ultimately really end up pissing off a lot of people. So I'm going to take the under on 35%. Edmund Zippo writes, everyone, when I say iron, you say spider. Very funny. Josh Crichton writes, what's your favorite TV theme song? MASH, Where Everybody Knows Your Name from Cheers, Happy Days theme song, or That 70? Oh, that's easy. Cheers. Sometimes you want to go where everybody knows your name. Boom, 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 boom. And they're always glad you came. Boom. You want to be with... the Cheers, there's something perfect about the Cheers theme song, especially when you get the gist of the show. That song is perfect for that show. It captures the spirit of the show. So on that, I mean, the mashing... Da, 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 da. Happy Days is very obviously really famous, but to me it's a theme from Cheers, where everybody knows your name. Josh Crichton also writes, do you prefer Rob Zombie or Marilyn Manson? That's easy, Rob Zombie. I'm actually not a fan of Marilyn Manson at all, but Rob Zombie, there's a lot of stuff I really dig. Director Donovan writes, the scariest part of A Quiet Place was seeing Michael Bay's name in the credits, and it's so funny because a lot of people had no idea Michael Bay was involved with that film. And a lot of people, like, after they had seen the film, there's like, I've been in online discussions where, and Michael Bay produced, and people saying, oh, no, he didn't. It's like, no, really, Michael Bay produced it. Take a look. People going, what? And yeah, look, Michael Bay, let's not, people forget. I swallowed something the wrong way. I'll probably be coughing for the next half hour. Michael Bay has made some good stuff as a producer and as a director in his career. Everybody keeps forgetting. I mean, yes, he flushed the toilet on Transformers, and he's got a few other stinkers, yes. But he's also made some pretty damn good fun films, both as a director and as a producer. But it is pretty funny seeing people's reactions when they hear that Michael Bay was the producer of it. They go, oh, no, it'll never. And John Krasinski's talked. I've seen John do some interviews talking about... now, it's not like Michael Bay was there on set every day and Michael Bay oversaw the script. It was not that heavily involved. But, you know, I've heard John Krasinski talking about that. It was he felt Bay really contributed to the film. He thought it was part of the reason the film worked as well as it did was because of Michael Bay's involvement. I mean, yeah, there it is, Michael Bay. And I bet... a lot of people may not have gone to see the film had they realized Michael Bay was one of the producers in advance before going. But hey, anyway, there you go. Curtis Lopez writes, in honor of Rampage, what's your favorite arcade game? My favorite arcade game. You know, when I was a little kid, my dad belonged to a bowling league. And my dad's not a big bowler, but he just, with some friends who would go bowling. And I believe it was Monday nights that he would go bowling. And I loved Monday nights because my dad would often take me with him. And I was a little kid. And what we would do is we would go to the bowling alley. We'd get there. My dad would give me like $3 in quarters, which is like as good. Wah! He'd give me like $3 in quarters. And in the middle of the bowling alley, they had like a bank of about 5 or 6 video games. And I would go over there and I'd play video games. I think my favorite one was this wrestling one. And I'm trying to remember the name of it, but it was this wrestling one where there was one character named Coco. And it was a black character, right? And it was a kind of a cheap thing, but as a kid I didn't care. I just loved winning. There was this little flaw in the game where one of Coco's moves was this thrusting headbutt, right? If you just kept doing thrusting headbutt, you would win every fight and eventually win the title. I don't know. So it was a little bit of a flaw in the game in that it was just unbeatable. If you just kept doing the thrusting headbutt, you would win. I mean, you would just always win. That's it. That's all you had to do. So I used to play that. And then there was this one, what was it called? Jungle Pit or Pitfall? Something like that, where you're swinging across vines and there's these digital alligators coming up trying to bite you as you're swinging across vines. That was a big one to me. So those were some of my favorite arcade games when I was just a little kid. Let's see here. Curtis Lopez also writes, where's Lady Sif? She was nowhere in Ragnarok, probably not in Infinity War. She probably should have fought Hela instead of the other guy. You mean Hogan, right? I think that might have made more sense if they wanted to wipe them all out. If they wanted to wipe them all out, you would have had the Warriors 3 all in the Bifrost, right? When Hela shows up and just kills them all like that, which that still breaks my heart. And then later, Lady Sif shows up and battles her. I have a feeling that a couple of things here. They could say, well, they couldn't get Jamie Alexander. Well, that didn't matter. They could have just swapped out the actress, because they've swapped out the one actor. Like you had Chuck swap, you had Zachary Levi swap in and out for Thandrel? Is that his name? The Dashing? For him, you had him swapping out. So you could have just swapped actresses. I think the reason they didn't have Lady Sif there is because they might have plans for Lady Sif later on. Or they might have an idea for Lady Sif later on that they wanted to still have the flexibility to use that character. Because if you had her there, then she had to die, right? So I have a feeling the reason they didn't have her there is because they have an idea that they may or may not do in the future with Lady Sif. And if they used her, then they lose their flexibility to have that option. They wanted to keep their flexibility to have the ability to choose to use her again in the future or not. So they didn't have her there. That's my best theory. Now, of course, the last time we saw Lady Sif was on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. And I can't remember what... I think she goes back to Asgard at the end of that, but maybe she said at the end of that she was going somewhere else. I can't remember, to be honest with you. But I think that's the reason we didn't see her on Asgard. And we may see her again a little bit later on. All right. Josh Crichton writes, your thoughts on the Who's Tommy movie? Personally, I didn't like it, but my favorite scene was Pinball Wizard. Well, the Tommy movie is really kind of interesting. It got a number of Academy Awards. And, you know, you had a couple of, you had, first of all, the one band member, I'm trying to remember his name, was actually in charge for doing the music and doing the score and all that kind of stuff. He got nominated for an Academy Award for that. And Margaret got nominated for Best Actress for it. Let's put it this way. I think Tommy was better than it had any business being. Let's just say that. I'll go that far. It was a movie that was better than it had any business being. I mean, and I remember, they had like Jack Nicholson in it or something like that. So yeah, I thought it was okay. I like Tommy. Let's see. Next one. The Number Thor writes, will we get a Central Intelligence 2? That's a good question. I don't know. Under regular circumstances, I would say I think so. But the fact of the matter is, Dwayne Johnson's really busy. And I think one of the reasons Dwayne Johnson, who's a smart dude, I think one of the reasons Dwayne Johnson is like filming 4 different movies a year right now, 4 or 5, is because I think he's aware. Look, the dude looks amazing, and he still has years still ahead of him looking this amazing and being a great action star. But I think he probably realizes his window is not like huge because he's so big and massive, and he has to work out so many hours a day. I don't know if you've ever watched any like videos on like Dwayne Johnson's workout routine and how many hours he spends in a gym and the type of diet that he eats and all that kind of stuff. And dude's in his 40s and he looks amazing. And clearly, I mean, you look at Stallone and Schwarzenegger and how good they look for so long. But I think Dwayne Johnson realizes I've got a certain window of time. It's not like a 1-year window. It's a decent sized window, but still, I think Dwayne Johnson realizes I've got a certain window of time that I can be the biggest movie star and the biggest action star in the world. And when that window's up, I can't do that anymore. So I'm going to do as many of these movies as I can. And look, when you watch video of the guy, he's clearly having a ball doing it. He's loving this. He's got his 3rd child on his way, or at least his 3rd daughter. I can't remember if he has any sons, but he's got his 3rd child on the way. He's loving doing this stuff. He's having a great time. He's having great success. So he's working his ass off. But I think it's that kind of a schedule that may prevent a Central Intelligence. Because Central Intelligence, while it did not do badly, let me pull up the box office numbers here on Central Intelligence. While it did not do badly, it wasn't a big monster hit. Like, it made $216 million worldwide. Not bad on a $50 million budget, but not great. The Rock's last movie, Jumanji, made almost $1 billion. And I think, The Rock is probably he wants to make the big hits. Central Intelligence was not a big hit. I like Central Intelligence. I thought it was pretty fun. And I really do like the dynamic between The Rock and Kevin Hart. And we saw that in Jumanji as well. But yeah, I doubt we're going to see Central Intelligence 2. If we do get a Central Intelligence 2, I doubt it'll be with Dwayne Johnson. I just think he's got too many other films to do, and he's looking to have really big, successful films. And, you know, with the first Central Intelligence only making $216 million, he's going to probably want to spend, I don't know if he's going to want to spend 4 months, you know, working on that one movie when it doesn't have as much upside as maybe some other films he could do. Again, I'm just theorizing, though. Maybe he will. Mickey Boosh 87 writes, "Hey John, watched Wildling last night. Cool movie, kind of ginger snaps. Do you have a favorite werewolf movie?" Well, obviously, any of you guys who watch me for any period of time, you know what I'm going to say. American Werewolf in London. It's my all-time favorite horror movie. It's not just my favorite werewolf movie. It is my all-time favorite horror movie ever. It still haunts me to this day. Again, not to be confused with American Werewolf in Paris. American Werewolf in London. That original... My favorite horror movie of all time. To this day, if I'm flipping through some channels and I see that it's on and I pop it on, if it's nighttime, I gotta turn lights on. I can't. It's one of the only films in history that legit scare me. And that movie scares me. So yeah, that's what I'm gonna go with. Alexander Helmer writes, "How's your progress in Fortnite going? Honestly, I haven't played in about 4 days. It is weird, but it is really true. You'd think one of the reasons that I, left the corporate overlords and to work with myself is to have it easier, but I'm working harder now than I ever have. I literally put out probably over 3 hours of content a day. Like when you consider the John Campea Show, Open Mic, the companion video, and then extra little editorials I do, like the review of Lost in Space I put up yesterday. When you consider all that, I'm putting up close to 3 hours. Somebody in the live chat the other week said, "John, do you realize you put out more content in a week than Game of Thrones does in a season?" And I was like, well, that's not true. Oh, that is true. So for every 1 hour of screen time, there's probably like 3-4 hours of off-screen work and preparation. And then when Anne gets home, I can't play video games when Anne gets home unless she and I are playing a game together. I don't want to play video games when Anne gets home because I want to spend time with Anne, during my days, it's tough. It's tough to find those little half-hour windows I have to sit down and play a game. Because usually when I do have some breathing room, I'm usually just trying to eat, So I haven't played Fortnite in almost a week. And I'm getting itchy. I want to play some more stuff. But I still suck. Make no mistake, I still suck. My best result so far in Fortnite was the last time I played. I came in 7th out of 100. Came in 7th. I still haven't killed a single person. Not once out of about 20 games I've played, I've not killed a single person. Not one. But I've come in 7th. So I still suck, but I enjoy the game very much. Kyle B writes, "Hey John, do you think Marvel can go more inside baseball in future movies because they built such a strong fan base? You still got to be careful." See, that's the thing. Some people believe that once you become successful, then it's easy going, right? The reality is once you're successful, it becomes more precarious. And you got to be careful. And you got to foster that fan base. You can't do things that alienate the fan base. And here's the reality, and I get these arguments sometimes with comic book fans, and there's not a ton of them. But I get in these debates and discussions with some comic book fans about some really inside baseball stuff, and getting them to realize, look, there are just certain things that will work very well on a comic book page that will not necessarily work on a movie screen. There are some things that come across as really cool and edgy in a comic book that if you put them on a big live action screen will come across as campy and cheesy and dumb. And it's just, that's why there's different mediums. Certain things work on one medium better than they do in another, and that's fine. So when you say inside baseball, narratively, yes. But going really freaky, like some of the things in the comic books do, you got to be careful. You do got to be careful because you can lose a fan base like that. You do have to be careful. You got to be even more diligent and work even harder now than before once you achieve a certain level of success. So it's not like, oh, we've built this fan base, now we can do whatever we want. Your fan base can be lost like that if you're not careful. So, I mean, it really all depends on how inside baseball you're talking about. Okay, next one. John Crichton writes, did I lose him? No, there he is. John Crichton writes, hey, John, if people say that I look like Fogel, a.k.a. McLovin from Superbad, then I say you look like Steve Carell, not Liam Neeson. I've never heard the Steve Carell one. I've never seen the Liam Neeson one either, when people tell me that I look like Liam. And I've had several different groups of strangers say that I think I look like a younger Liam Neeson. I don't see it. I don't see it, but a bunch of people do. I do see the Wayne Gretzky comparison. Like, a lot of people compare me looking like Wayne Gretzky. That I see a little bit. I don't see Steve Carell. I'm not handsome enough to look like Steve Carell. But that's interesting. I've never heard that one before. Okay, so Josh follows that up with, what is your favorite Cheap Trick song? For me, it's either Mighty Wings or Flame. Favorite Cheap Trick song? Da, 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 da. I feel so lonely. Da, 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 I'm losing steam over you. You say we're like you will first, you'll be the last. Wherever you go, I think that's Cheap Trick. And the reason I mentioned them is because I think that was one of the first songs, not the first song, but probably in my first year of playing piano. I think, and yes, I play piano and keyboards for those of you who are wondering. But in my first year of playing piano, I think that it was one of the Cheap Trick songs that I learned how to play. So I'm going to go with that one. If that is indeed a Cheap Trick song. And I think it is. But if that's a Cheap Trick song, then that's the song I'm going to go with. Ben Rayner writes, have you watched Once Upon a Time show? Thoughts? Saw like one episode once because a friend of Anne's is an actress named Jamie Alexander. Jamie Alexander, that's the wrong one. Jamie Chung, this is the wrong Jamie I'm thinking of. Anne's friends with this actress named Jamie Chung. Jamie Chung, I believe she played Mulan in Once Upon a Time. Jamie Chung was also in the Dragon Ball movie, and she was in Sucker Punch, and she's currently in that X-Men show Gifted, where she plays Blink. Anyway, so we found out Jamie was in Once Upon a Time, so I'd never watched the show up until that point. So we sat down and watched the show. It wasn't for me. But, maybe if I sat down and watched 5 or 6 episodes, it would grow on me. But I don't have 5 or 6 hours to invest into something that maybe I'll like and maybe I won't. So I watched the one episode. It really wasn't for me. So I kind of gave up on it after that. I mean, I know a number of people who really love that show. So I'm not crap talking the show. I'm just saying it wasn't for me. That's all. Kyle B. writes, finale of The Walking Dead is tonight. That's why you got a few The Walking Dead questions. Oh, that's right. In your past video. Will you check out Fear the Walking Dead this season? It's sort of a reboot. I've never watched... Well, I mean, I've watched one episode once of Fear the Walking Dead. It was an episode where they're living on one, camp, but there's another human camp, and they're kind of at war with each other because something one camp's grandfather did to another camp's grandfather. I can't even remember it. I just remember thinking, again, not for me. Wasn't for me, so I've never really watched it. Probably won't. I've got other shows I need to watch, so I'm probably not going to get on Fear the Walking Dead. Maybe if I liked Walking Dead more, I'd get more into Fear the Walking Dead, but I'll be honest with you, I'm kind of over the whole zombie thing. Like, not just in Walking Dead, but like in movies and stuff like that. That's not to say there couldn't be the odd one that comes out that I really dig. I'm sure there are, but I am kind of over the zombie thing, to be honest with you. Let's see. Josh Crichton writes, would you ever consider doing a live show from Niagara Falls? Probably not. I love Niagara Falls. I spend a bunch of time in Niagara Falls. Every time Ann and I go, we go down to Niagara Falls, walk around the falls. I like going. It's one of the few places I can go and play poker in Canada, is at one of the Niagara Falls casinos, although one of them doesn't have poker anymore. I think Fallsview has poker and Niagara Casino doesn't, or it could be the other way around. Anyway, but how can I do a live show? I don't have gear. I don't have the equipment. I don't have, I won't have a streaming thing. I mean, there's just no way for me to do a live show in Niagara Falls. I have no thing. Like, maybe when I was still working with a corporation and I had a full-time staff of 20 people and the backing of 3 major corporations and all that kind of stuff, maybe then. But I just have no way of making it happen. I'm not going to lug my lights, cameras, audio gear, other mics, computer streaming system, blah, blah. I can't lug all that down. So when I say, no, I'm not going to do a live show from Niagara Falls, it's not because I wouldn't love to do a live show in Niagara Falls. It's just I have no way of doing it. There's no way for me to do it. So, no, you'll probably not see me do a live show. You'll find me in Niagara Falls a lot, but you'll probably not see me do a live show from Niagara Falls. The number Thor writes, first Aquaman trailer coming at Comic-Con. Your thoughts? And also, do you think we will get a Shazam end credit scene in Aquaman to set him up? Well, this is actually a very interesting thing. I think we'll get an Aquaman trailer at Comic-Con. As a matter of fact, I think we'll get an Aquaman trailer before Comic-Con. I think we will get our first Aquaman trailer before Comic-Con. Once the big buzz of Infinity War dies down a little bit, I think we will get our first trailer for Aquaman. Although it is very possible they may hold off on it until July, which is totally possible too. So I feel pretty good about that. If we don't get, we will either get our first Aquaman trailer at Comic-Con or before. I feel pretty good about that. I feel pretty good that once Comic-Con is done, we will have already seen an Aquaman trailer. Now, the second part of your question is a little bit more tricky. Idea that we could get a Shazam thing in the end credit scenes of Aquaman. That depends who you talk to. Because there are some people who are saying Shazam will be disconnected from the DCEU. Now that's contrary to other things we've heard, that there's a possibility Henry Cavill may cameo in Shazam as the Man of Steel, as Superman. But there's been no confirmation of that. Nobody official has like backed that statement up. But there have been whispers that Henry Cavill could appear as a cameo as Superman. But again, that's at best a rumor at this point. They may be trying to keep it separate from the DCEU. If they do, then obviously you don't show a post-credit scene of Shazam in it. And even if they are going to have Shazam more integrated in the DCU, I still don't see how there's a connection between Aquaman and him. So I'm going to say no, I don't expect to see. It's possible, but I do not expect to see a Shazam post-credit scene in Aquaman. I don't think so. Let's see here. Next one comes to us from AFC, who writes, John, help. I can't stop watching every Infinity War TV spot, right? I know, right? It's difficult. Every time there's a new Infinity War TV spot, I am tempted to click on it, but after that last chant one, which is a great spot, but it was the first spot that made me go, ooh, they showed me something I wish they hadn't. It's the first time that's happened to me with the Infinity War marketing. But I've kind of decided at that point, if they put out a new theatrical trailer, I will watch a new trailer. However, they seem to be putting out like a new TV spot every 4 or 5 days. So I'm not going to watch any more of the TV spots. If they pull out a full-fledged trailer, which I doubt they will now since the movie's just like 2 weeks away, wrap your heads around that, guys. The movie's less than 2 weeks away. It's 12 days away. 12 days. Anyway, which means I am seeing it, what? I'm seeing it on the 23rd, so I'm seeing it in 8 days. I'm seeing it in 8 days. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. Okay, so yeah, I'll watch a new trailer, but I am also like you. I'm over it. So you just got to bite down on it, man. Just get a little round piece of wood to keep in your pocket. And when you see on your feed that there's a new TV spot for Avengers Infinity War, just put that piece of wood in your mouth and bite down on it and just push through it and move away. Go away from your computer. Go outside. Walk your dog. Walk somebody else's dog. Do something to distract yourself and take away the temptation to watch it. MuseTac Reviews writes, don't worry, not spoiling Gotham this week. Have you watched it, though? What did you think? Ending was awesome. No, I haven't watched it yet. I saw it pop up on my Hulu feed. Because I don't watch TV shows live. I haven't for a long time. I make an exception for Game of Thrones, but even then I'm not really watching live. I'm watching it on the streaming app, right? But I do an exception for Game of Thrones because I do an after show for Game of Thrones immediately after the episodes. But generally speaking, I don't watch TV shows live. I watch them like the next day on either the Hulu app or on if it's a CW show, I watch it on the CW app. If it's an FX show, I watch it on the FX app. I mean, I don't have cable, so I haven't had cable for like 6 years. I mean, I do have YouTube TV on my Roku, so I could watch Gotham live. but I don't watch any shows live. Basically, I usually watch them later the next day. So probably maybe sometime today around dinner, after I'm done dinner and stuff like that, maybe I'll sit down and watch the Gotham episode. But no, I haven't watched it yet. AFC writes, have you seen the latest Black Lightning? I'm addicted to it now. Yes, I did. I loved it. I'm digging this show. And it kind of breaks my heart that the next episode is the final episode of the season. Next episode's the final episode of the season. Breaks my heart. That's because I've really gotten on board with this show. I'm enjoying this show a lot more than I thought I would. I mean, not quite as much as I was addicted to Arrow in season 1 and season 2, and not quite as much as I was addicted to Flash in seasons 1 and 2, but I am really on board with this Black Lightning show a lot more than I thought I would. And the whole thing, first of all, their villain is great. Tobias Whale is a great villain. I just love it every second he's on screen, man. I just think he's one of the most entertaining characters in all of CW. So it's partly loving the villain, love the hero. I love the stuff they got going on with the daughters as well. It's just a really good premise. So yeah, I saw it and I loved it. Did the old jump thing. Hang tight, guys. Did the old jump thing. Let me find out how far back I got to go here. All right, here we go. We're now caught up again. The number Thor writes, John, gonna be off work recovering as I had a corneal transplant in my right eye. Oh my gosh, dude. So off work for a while and in a bit of pain. Oh, I'm sure, dude. But you and your show are helping me through it. So thanks a lot, man. You're awesome. Well, that's awesome, man. First of all, get well soon. I'm sure you probably did that to improve your life, to get that procedure done. Hope you're able to push through it soon, man. Get better. And I know me and the rest of the movie fan community, we're all here to have a good time with you, dude. So get better, rest, relax. Don't put too much strain on the eye. Actually, you probably got it patched up. I'm sure you've got the eye patched up at this point. But still, just pace yourself, rest, relax, be good, and we're thrilled that you're being here. And I'm really honored that we can help pass your time, man, while you're recovering. That's awesome. Thanks a lot for sharing that. TF writes, I normally stay away from foreign films. However, I really recommend Joyeux Noël. Have you seen it? It's a World War II French film about the Christmas ceasefire. No, but if I'm thinking of the right film, I've heard of it. And I remember seeing if I'm thinking of the right film, I remember seeing a preview for it. It looks pretty good. And I've heard about it, so I have not. But thank you, TF, for making that recommendation. One of my favorite things about this show is the fact that we can have, as film fans, making recommendations to each other for films. Because guys would not believe how many emails and tweets I've gotten from people who have said to me, hey, John, on your show the other day, somebody recommended this, and I watched it and loved it. Like, seriously, that happens all the time. So I really love that. Now, speaking of recommendations, guys, let me do a little bit of a plug here for one of our sponsors here. But this is important for tomorrow's show. So, speaking of recommendations, as you guys know, the Stardust app is one of the sponsors of our show right now. And I actually love the app. I have turned down many sponsorships for the John Campea Show simply because, not because they're bad products, but because I either don't use them, so I can't recommend something I don't use, or I didn't think they would be useful to us as a movie fan community. However, Stardust app is a little bit different. It's a little app, you download it for free. It's an app where you record your own reactions, reviews to movies, trailers, and TV shows. And then here's the cool part and how it works with the John Campea Show. What you do is you record your video, right? So record yourself. Then once you're done recording, in that top corner there, you tap on that @ button and you tag me at John Campea. So tag me on the video. And then I see the video you sent in, and then I use your videos, not all of them, but I use as many as I can in what we're watching and in your reactions. So for instance, on Monday, this is tomorrow, I'm putting together a montage of some of my favorite reviews and reactions from you guys on Stardust for the movie Rampage. So your homework this weekend was, if you've seen Rampage, hop on the Stardust app, give me your reaction to it, make sure you tag me at John Campea on the screen so I can see it. And tomorrow I'm going to do a montage video of my favorite reviews and reactions from you guys on the movie Rampage. So make sure you guys do that. Okay, let's get back to the questions now. And the next question comes to us from Manuel Fernandez, who writes, who, other than you two, would you say are some of your favorite out of these? Aerosmith, love Aerosmith. Led Zeppelin, love Led Zeppelin. Beatles, honestly not a Beatles fan. Rolling Stones, love the Stones. AC/DC, love AC/DC. Coldplay, I think Coldplay are not appreciated enough. I think musically, I think they're really great. Pink Floyd, honestly was never a big Pink Floyd fan. Just to be honest with you. Guns N' Roses, GNR. Queen, Bon Jovi, love Bon Jovi. Especially like back in the Slippery When Wet era, love Bon Jovi. And Metallica, not as big of a fan of Metallica as a lot of my friends were. I don't know, other than a few tunes, I mean, obviously Sandman and stuff like that, I was never big into Metallica. Don't know why. I just never was. Let's see. KW Garrett writes, what's the deal on Beirut movie with John Hamm? I've seen no marketing for this or heard about it on movie shows, yet it is playing at my Regal. So Beirut is this movie about John Hamm, who used to be like in a terrorist negotiations and stuff like that. And then he's been out of the game for a long time because he got caught in a bombing. And it's now years later, and terrorists have his friend, and it's all kind of stuff. It looks pretty interesting. However, there were not wide press screenings for it. I got invited to one press screening for it. And it was like on the Universal Studios lot in the middle of the day this one day, which is tough for me to get out to watch a screening in the middle of the day because I've got shows to do, right? Now, normally, these films have like multiple options for press screenings. So they say, hey, you can either come see it Tuesday at 7 or Wednesday at 6 or Thursday at 9 a.m. And they give you all the different addresses of where the screenings are. But this one had one press screening that I had the option of seeing, but I couldn't get out to see it. So I think it looks really good. You check out the trailer for it. I think it looks quite good. And I love John Hamm as an actor. So I'm very curious to see it, but I did not have a chance to see it, and it's kind of flown under my radar. Clearly, this is not something the studio is putting a lot of weight behind, but I think it's an interesting looking project nonetheless. Padriette Conway writes, do you think Fox will use Scarlet Witch in movie or TV? Why not make her the queen of the Hellfire Club? Would make good interaction with Polaris and Gifted. Well, first of all, they can't use Scarlet Witch because she's under the Marvel banner, so they can't use her. If this deal ever gets concluded, and ignore those reports you saw about it's going to get concluded in summer of 19, nobody knows that. Nobody knows that for certain. They're hoping. But then again, we've known that from the beginning. They said right from the beginning, this could take up to a year and a half to close. Okay, they've said that from the beginning. When is a year and a half up? Summer 2019. So hopefully, fingers crossed, the deal gets closed in. As of right now, Fox can't use her. Not to mention, even if the deal gets closed, Fox may not want, or Disney may not want to let them do that. Now, today, Fox does have the ability to use Scarlet Witch if they wanted to, because, as we found out a number of years ago, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver are the only two characters, individual characters, that both Fox and Marvel have the right to use. When they made the deal that worked out, I'm not sure, but those are the only two characters. That's why you could have Quicksilver, a version of Quicksilver in X-Men Days of Future Past, and also why you can have Quicksilver in Age of Ultron. So they can, with certain stipulations. The Quicksilver in the Marvel films and Scarlet Witch can make no reference to their father being Magneto. They can make no mention of the use of the word mutants or anything like that. That's why in the Marvel universe, they're not mutants. And, of course, in the Fox universe, they can't make any mention of Avengers. They can't do anything like that. A Scarlet Witch is a tricky character. It's a very tricky character. And at this point, you may not want to start something. See, look, Fox needs to keep on with business as usual, right? But they may be hesitant to use a Scarlet Witch Because if the deal goes through, as we're all expecting it will, then Marvel can simply just put the kibosh. I mean, go ahead with business as usual, but I don't know that there's a lot of use in moving ahead with like characters that you may just have to kill before it would ever even air at this point, right? Look, there's a lot of moving pieces to this, a lot of moving pieces that it's going to be interesting to see how it all kind of goes out. But Scarlet Witch is a tricky character to do even under the best of circumstances. Patrick Conway writes, do you think Fox will use... wait a second. Is that the question you just asked? Oh, yeah, that's the question you just asked. Sorry. Chris Warden writes, will you be doing a meet and greet for San Diego Comic-Con this year? I think so. Look, I'm still not 100% positive that I'm going. I believe I am, but I'm not 100% yet. But yes, if I go, I will definitely be doing a meet and greet at San Diego Comic-Con. I'm not sure when or where, but I'll get that part figured out. But it is more than likely. It is more than likely that I'll do a meet and greet at Comic-Con this year. ZOMG Ruler writes, I think Justice League would have made more if Green Lantern was... No, that's not true. That's not true at all. Why? How justify that? So you're saying there are a ton of people out there that are not interested in Superman, that are not interested in Batman, that are not interested in Wonder Woman, that are not interested in The Flash, that are not interested in Aquaman, but they would go see Green Lantern, but none of the rest of those guys. Like, that's, we're saying, so no, I fully 100% disagree with you that it would have made more money if Green Lantern was in it. Because that would be suggesting that there's a whole ton of people that would see Green Lantern that wouldn't see any of those other characters. And that's not the case. Chances are, if you're interested in seeing a Green Lantern movie, then you're also interested in seeing Superman or Batman or Wonder Woman or Cyborg or Flash or Aquaman. And so those people were already seeing Justice League anyway. So it's possible, sure, but I'm going to have to 100% disagree with you on that it would have made more money if Green Lantern was there. I really don't think that's the case. Not to mention, they're going to have to do a little bit of work to wash the stink of the last Green Lantern movie off of Green Lantern. And they're going to do it. They'll do it. But no, I completely disagree with you. I don't think it would have made more at all. Dylan Trost writes, will we see Darth Vader in Solo? I doubt it. To me, it would seem a little bit desperate. And I really think I remember them saying they want to separate this from the Force, you know? So I don't think so. It's possible you get a little cameo, but even then I doubt it. And I hope they don't, because there's no need to have Vader in it. Like, if you look at Rogue One, and the story of Rogue One involving the Death Star and the military movement and all that kind of stuff, it makes absolute sense that you have Grand Moff Tarkin there. It would actually be odd, when you understand the importance of Grand Moff Tarkin, it would actually be odd not to have Grand Moff Tarkin there. However, in a Solo movie, there's no need to have Darth Vader there. There's absolutely no need to have him there. So I'm going to guess no. They may, but that'll be a little desperate on their part, I think, if they do. But who knows? We'll have to wait and see. The man with the plan writes, hey, John, love all you do, whether it's inspiring, teaching, or entertaining. With that said, just saw Rampage and loved it. Lizzie was a bitch. Yeah, look, that's the thing about Rampage, right? It's dumb. I mean, make no mistake, it's dumb. But I also believe it is intentionally so. And to set up the third act with those monsters. Because if you don't set up that this is just a dumb movie and we're embracing the dumbness of it, then by the time you get to the third act, that third act would just be ridiculous. Instead, they set the tone of this movie right from the beginning, and they follow through to the end, and it's just dumb, stupid fun. Not one of the greatest films of all time, will not be in my top 20 of 2018, but it's a good time. And look, I totally get that it's not going to work for everybody. It's not. This is a movie that will not work for everyone. Not at all. And there's nothing wrong with that if it doesn't work for you. But for me, it kind of fired on those cylinders enough that I had a good time watching it. Let's see. Chris Martin writes, Asajj Ventress versus Anakin 2003 Clone Wars miniseries fight was great. But one of the things, look, I'm not a fan of any of the Clone Wars stuff. Either the miniseries, the series, whatever. But I will say this. A lot of the fight sequences were pretty spectacular. A lot of the fight stuff in that show was great. Unfortunately, fight stuff isn't enough to make me like a show. But they did do some great stuff in there. Yeah, of that, I can't deny that. But look, I'm fully willing to talk about the things that are good in shows or movies that I dislike. Like when we talk about The Phantom Menace, you know I hate The Phantom Menace, but I will be more than happy to sit down and talk about how awesome I think the pod race is, how great the fight between Maul and Qui-Gon Jinn and Obi-Wan is. I'll sit down and talk about things I like about it. And I gotta say that even though I'm not a fan of the Clone Wars stuff, their fight stuff was pretty top-notch. It was pretty top-notch, like across the board. Sebastian Lerda writes, if ever, MCU with X-Men, wouldn't Xavier and Magneto be too old for a modern crossover? They were born in the 40s. Well, according to who? Superman came to Earth in the 1920s. Batman was born in the 1950s, I want to say. So who's to say? That's the thing, Sebastian. If they bring X-Men into the... they probably reboot the X-Men. Actually, I feel pretty confident they reboot the X-Men. If this deal goes through, Disney reboots the X-Men. And Charles and Magneto were not born in the 1940s. They were born in the late 1950s. There you go. They were born in the late 1950s. So now they're in their 70s. That's fine. 70, like Stallone's in his 70s, and look at him. That's fine. They should both be older, but you can say they were born in the late 50s, early 60s. You know, so yeah. I mean, you say they were born in the 40s. According to what? According to nothing, because once they get rebooted, they're born whenever the new reboot says they're born. Wonder Woman's been around for 70 years. Well, actually, she's older than that. But anyway, you know what I'm saying. Captain America is however old. I mean, when Nick Fury was created, when Iron Man was created, he's a lot older than Tony Stark is. Like, they were born whenever the reboot says they're born. That's the thing. Now, that does mean you're going to have to change some things. It's really unfortunate, but you got to change Magneto's, his whole Auschwitz background and stuff like that. You got to change all that. That sucks, but that's what you do. That's what you do with new incarnations. So that really won't be a problem. They will have many problems merging an X-Men existence and mutants into the MCU. There will be many problems doing that. What year Charles and Magneto were born is not going to be one of those problems. Teneb writes, who will die in Infinity War? No idea. I mean, that's a big thing. But tomorrow, I have a video coming that I'm calling The Numbers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all like 18, 19, 20, 21 characters in the MCU and giving each one of them the odds of them dying in the MCU. Or dying in Avengers Infinity War. That video is coming tomorrow. Keep your eyes open for it. I'm really excited about it. And like I said, I'm going to go through each one and go with Iron Man, Captain America, Spider-Man, Scarlet Witch, War Machine, Ant-Man, Hawkeye, Shuri, Black Panther. Like, I'm going to go through all the characters in Infinity War and given the odds on what are the odds of this one dying. Okay, let's move on to the next character. What are the odds of this one dying? I'm going to be doing that. Make sure you check out that video. I'm very excited about doing that video. The number Thor writes, will we get a Ride Along 3? Thoughts? I don't think so. Ride Along 2 was horrible. I kind of liked the first Ride Along. Ride Along 2 was just terrible. And I do not believe it did very well. Hold on a second. Let me just double check the numbers on. So the first Ride Along made $154 million worldwide. That's not great, but it only cost $25 million to make, right? Ride Along 2 dropped significantly like in North America, Ride Along made like 120 something million. Ride Along 2 only made 91 million in North America. Overall, only made 124 million. So its box office came down and its budget went up to like 40 million. So, and it was terrible. It was absolutely awful. And it's too bad because I really liked the first one. So no, I don't think we're going to get a Ride Along 3. Dylan Trost writes, when did you realize you didn't like the prequels? I see you gave Revenge of the Sith a 3.5 out of 5 and said you still liked Attack of the Clones 3 years after its release. Don't blame me, by the way. It wasn't long after. Like, that's one of the things. It is the one time in history for me, other than... Well, no, it's the one time in history for me that because it was Star Wars, that I just tricked myself into liking something. But here's the thing. With Phantom Menace, like I went and watched it and said, yay, I loved it. And then I saw it the next time. It's like, okay, I still love it, just not as much. And then the next time, and the next time, and the next time. I saw that movie like 17 times in theaters. That's not an exaggeration, by the way. I saw it like 17 times in theaters. Part of the reason I saw it so many times is because when that movie came out, I was working in a visual effects company. And we had a movie theater not far from our studio. So usually, like in the middle of the day, we'd go like, should we have a staff meeting? And what we meant by staff meeting was, let's go watch The Phantom Menace. Because we were working in visual effects. And no matter how good or bad that movie is, that movie was revolutionary in visual effects. Like, Lucasfilm was doing things in that movie that no one had ever even dreamed of doing before. It was crazy. So we many times would go, oop, time for staff meeting. And we'd all go over and watch Phantom Menace. But it was one of those things where with all three of them, every time I saw it, I liked it a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less. So when The Phantom Menace came out, when The Force Awakens came out, I should say, a couple of years ago. When The Force Awakens came out, there were some people who didn't like the movie. And they say, well, John, this is the same thing's going to happen to you as happened with The Force Awakens. And I'm like, well, no, I don't think so. Because now every time I see The Force Awakens, I'm liking it more and more and more and more every time I see it. So, no, I don't think this is the same thing that's happening. Because the thing with the prequels took the Star Wars blinders off my eyes. The prequels took the Star Wars blinders off. Because up until that point, I had Star Wars blinders. Because it was after the prequels that I'm able to watch Clone Wars and go, no, I don't like this. It's because of the prequels that I can watch Rebels. And while I like a lot of Rebels, there are things about Rebels I don't like. And there were seasons that I wasn't all that big on, and chunks of episodes that I wasn't big on. Whereas before, if it wasn't for the prequels, I may have still had the Star Wars blinders on. And I don't anymore, thanks to the prequels. So yeah, it was a matter of having to watch each one a number of times and realizing that each time I watched one of the prequels, I liked it less, and I liked it less, and I liked it less, until finally I got to the point where I was like, I just got to acknowledge it. These films are shit. These films are terrible. And it was thanks to the prequels that the Star Wars blinders came off. The Star Wars is still the biggest thing in the world to me. You can tell by looking at most of the stuff that's behind me. I mean, I got Luke and Rey right there. I got my Stormtroopers over there. I got my Boba Fett right there. There's Obi-Wan over there. There's my Yoda painting right there. A lot of my pops are Star Wars pops. There's Chewie. There's just a couple of Chewies, actually. Han. I mean, clearly Star Wars is still the biggest thing in the world to me, but I no longer have Star Wars blinders. And it was because of the prequels that I no longer have Star Wars blinders. Krieger 119 writes, why are you singing Cheers without the guitar? Actually, I was playing guitar earlier today. So normally my guitar is right here. Usually it just sits right here, just outside of camera. But I was playing my guitar like 2 days ago, just for fun out in the living room. And so the guitar's out there. Actually, I don't even know that I know how to play Cheers on guitar. I probably don't. I could probably play it on the piano if you give me a minute, but I probably couldn't play it on guitar. The number Thor writes, the best lightsaber battle in a Star Wars movie, I say Anakin and Obi-Wan on Mustafar. That fight and the choreography of it was awesome. I like that fight very much. But there's a few too many twirls and dances in it for me. Like that one moment when Anakin and Obi-Wan are standing face to face and they're both doing the twirls. It seems like 8 minutes. It's like, it takes away from a bit. It's a great fight though. I think my favorite fight is still Maul, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon. I still think that's my favorite one. Other than that, Yoda and Dooku. I love the Yoda and Dooku fight. I hate the prequels, and I know people who even like the prequels but hate the Yoda lightsaber fight. I love the Yoda lightsaber fight. I love watching CGI Yoda fighting with his lightsaber. I don't care what anybody else says. I love that shit. I think that is awesome, awesome stuff. And even though I hate the prequels, I can watch Yoda fighting Dooku. I can watch it over and over. I think it's awesome. I was like squealing, like watching Yoda doing all his flips and his lights. I'm like, yeah! I love it. And to this day, even though I hate the movie now, I still love that scene. Love that scene. Okay, let's go on here. We've got about 5 minutes left. And of course, guys, as always, if there's any live questions that have come in that I don't have time to get to, don't worry about it. They will be on tomorrow's companion video, so don't worry about that. Cramster writes, "Hey, John, been a fan of yours since you did the AMC 24-hour-long movie talk marathon. You inspired me to start my own YouTube channel." That's awesome. I love doing that. A question, how do you stay so relaxed and natural behind camera? Any secrets? No, look, I have always, there are many things I am no good at. I have very few talents. But the one thing that I think I am, look, no false humility, one of the things that I think I am one of the best at is I am a communicator. I am a very natural communicator. I can stand on a stage, and I have stood on a stage in front of 10,000 people and delivered hour-long speeches. I mean, I can just do that. That's what I do. I'm very natural at it. And, you know, it was really funny because back when I was at the last place that I would work, and we were trying to think of some ways, I was trying to think of some ways on how to simplify some of the shows we were doing, like Mailbag. I was trying to think of ways to simplify Mailbag, and I wanted to get back to Mailbag being a one-person show. And I tried to get other people that worked with me to do it instead of just me doing Mailbag by myself. I thought I'd get some other people to step in and do episodes of Mailbag by themselves. And across the board, even some of the people you think would be good at it, that I sat down with, "Hey, can you do Mailbag, blah, blah, blah." And they're like, like across the board, they're like, "I can't sit and talk in front of a camera by myself for an hour. Can't do it." I'm like, "Really?" Because to me, that's one of just the most natural things. Again, very, very little I'm good at in this life. But what I am good at, I'm pretty good at. And that's like just communicating. So I don't know. You see, it's alien to me, the notion of not being comfortable in front of a camera. Like, it's kind of strange to me when somebody says they can't stand on a stage and talk to people, or they can't get on the internet online and talk just really naturally and fluidly to a camera for an hour by themselves. To me, that's weird. To me, that seems like the easiest thing in the world. But I'm sure there are many things that you do that are like the easiest thing in the world that I would look at and go, "Oh, I couldn't possibly do that." Like, I'm sure there's a lot of things like that. But I don't know, man. It's just me. Look, my best piece of advice, treat the camera like your cousin. Just talk to the camera. Except for, you know, those people who have a problem with black people in Star Wars, maybe you shouldn't do that, because if you thought the camera was your cousin, you'd probably grab it and start humping it, because that's what you do. But anyway, treat the camera like your cousin. Just like you're talking movies, and you're just talking to your cousin, but you're not letting them get a word in edgewise. So you're just communicating with it. That's the best thing I know how to do. So other than that, I don't know. I don't know what it is about me that makes that easy for me to do and other things harder for me to do. But it's just kind of my natural makeup, I guess. But thanks a lot for asking, man. That's a really nice compliment. Thank you. Number Thor writes, will we get a fourth Expendables movie? And if so, I think they should put The Rock in it. I think he would be great in it, and he would help the box office. I can't see The Rock being interested in it at all. The Rock wouldn't do it. So, I mean, every movie would love to put The Rock in their movie. Of course they would. Every movie would love to put The Rock in their movie. Rock's got no interest in being in that movie. There's just no way. First of all, first Expendables domestic box office made $103 million domestically. Great. Expendables 2 went down. Expendables 2 made $85 million at the box office. Expendables 3 nosedived and made $39 million at the box office. Expendables 1, over $100 million at the box office. By the time you get to Expendables 3, it made $39 million. Tell me you're going to get The Rock to get into that franchise. Plus, that franchise is about the old action stars, right? With a few young, fresh faces. I don't think Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson wants to make himself be qualified as an old, former big action star. And that's the old, former action stars pitch is one of the appeals. One of the things that makes The Expendables such a great idea. I don't think The Rock wants to be involved in that, though. I don't see why he would, especially when the last movie made $39 million domestically. Why would he get involved in that when he can do other movies that'll make $300 million or make, domestically make $145 million domestically? You know what I mean? So Every movie should put The Rock in it because he's the biggest movie star in the world, but he wouldn't be interested. I just can't see any scenario in which you could appeal to him to do that. Let's see. Next one. Just have time for just a couple of quick more here, guys. Thunder Knight 19 writes, who or what is the Phantom Menace? Oh, I think Sidious was the Phantom Menace. Sidious was the Phantom Menace. Pardrick Conway writes, Central Perk or Cheers or Moe's. Best TV hangout. Cheers. Easy. Cheers. No questions asked. Cheers. All day, every day. Cheers. Let's see. And the final question today will come to us from the number Thor, who writes, thoughts on the movie To Walk with Lions with Richard Harris. I think the movie is awesome. Hold on a second. Let me just make sure I'm thinking of the right one. Okay, it is the right one. Okay, for a second there, thinking for whatever reason, because I think Richard Harris was in an incarnation of Lion of Winter. I think so. I said, wait a minute, just make sure I'm thinking of the right one. I saw this movie once. And it was like 20 years ago. Maybe 15 years ago. I think it was like 15 years ago. I think I remember liking it, but I to be honest with you, I can't remember all that much about it. I think Carrie Fox is in it, if I'm not mistaken. But so I really don't have a lot of recollection of it, so I honestly can't talk about it. I could try to bullshit my way through and pretend I remember it, but I don't, so I can't do that. All right, guys, that will do it for me for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for joining me. Hey, just so you know, don't forget, we got Star Wars talk a little bit later today, coming up at 2 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's 5 p.m. East Coast time. If you're a Star Wars fan, make sure you come back and talk a little bit of Star Wars with us. Again, that's later this afternoon. All right, guys, that'll do it for me for today. Thanks so much for joining me. My name's John Campea, and until my next video, bye-bye.